Hello, what is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And today we will be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 3, Episode 8, and the title of the episode is Reckonings. And I'm joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing today, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? I just saw your title, by the way, Gerald the Rat. That's hilarious. Um,
Yes, I will. I have some things to say about that a little bit later, but yeah, man, very tough situation for our boy Marvin. So stay tuned.
yeah. I'm also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you, Dana?
Whoop, whoop. That is the sound of the police coming for Marvin. Whoop, whoop.
Yep. I like your title as well, by the way, the 50th Law. 50
Big.
Cent actually has a book called that.
That's the name of the book because I had a connection as to what was going on within the show as I was writing my notes, and I said, "Oh my God!" I had to pass out, and then my name is 50th Law. I'll explain why.
Now I can't wait for your takeaways to see what you have to say on that. But yeah, we are here to recap episode 8 and what an episode it was. Yeah, quite a few things happened, so we have a lot to discuss momentarily. But yeah, just a quick reminder, please do leave your comments. We're loving all the theories out there, all the thoughts and theories from the community. So we thank all the people who contribute to the show every week by, commenting and all that good stuff. So please do leave your comments, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the interviews. We have an interview with Kanan and Famous up there right now. Thanks to Dana. So definitely check that out.
Talking about their split. Talking about the split.
Yeah, talking about the the strain on their friendship. So definitely check that out because it's going to be very important, I think. Um, but yeah, and we're going to get right into our takeaways now. And it is Dana's turn to go first this week. So, Dana, when you're ready, give us your takeaways on episode 8.
Okay, let's break this down. This was a very exciting episode. For me, why? Because there were things that I did not see coming. And I was hurt, I was happy, I was shocked at it, and I'm surprised certain people are not dead yet. And then I was surprised by the person who was dead that they died so early. I was like, oh, that was interesting. So here's the thing for me. Obviously, we start from the beginning, and that is basically breaking down everyone's kind of emotion. And this is about, when you're alone, when you're by yourself, that's when your thoughts and everything that you have done come back to you and they're haunting you. Which, if you pay attention, I've noticed this, is a connection. If you just take 50 Cent's monologues from every time there's the beginning and the end, it connects to the next episode, which is what I didn't realize. It took me 3 whole seasons to realize they connect to each other. So by the end of that monologue, where he ends up talking about um, how nope, nope, sorry. By the end of talking about how revenge is not about business, it feels right, and that was enough reason for him. Next episode for me feels like we're gonna get into about the consequences of revenge and seeing what may feel right for you may not be beneficial for others. I know I'm jumping ahead, forgive me, but this kind of connects to my name, the 50th Law, which I did not remember until like I started connecting the dots. In 2009, if you're not aware, 50 Cent wrote a book. My mother was like, oh my God, you got to read the book. And I was like, no, I'm not going to read the book. But anyway, the book was essentially about all of the different laws that he learned about street life, right? And how it's basically the art of war, but dealing with the game, the business of drug dealing, of doing illegal activities, so forth and so much, how he applied that into why he was able to survive. One of the things that he talked about when you're reading it is about the different emotions that you go through. One of the most impactful things was about fear, how you overcome that fear, and how it may be living within you, but you do not allow yourself to show it. Why am I bringing this up? Because it connects to the conversation that Kanan had with Snaps and Pops regarding, do you want to be respected or do you want to be feared? And Kanan saying, I would rather be both. To fear is to be respected is to be feared, especially when it comes into the game that they're playing, right? And if you noticed how Ronnie stated he wanted to be feared. He doesn't really care about respect. He doesn't care about people's emotions or what they think of him, which is interesting. And I wonder, the more that he is learning from Ronnie and this business, is he going to start adapting some of his thought process as well? And we've seen some of that earlier. What is really interesting also with that scene involving Kanan is how Ronnie is being used as his protector, his go-getter, in terms of when you saw with the CPS lady, how she came by and she was like, if you're not in the house by 24 hours, we're going to come back with the police. You're going to be probably in foster care. Your life is going to be a mess and be ruined. And while we did not see the conversation that she had with Rodney, we was able to watch the body language. I mean, hear the conversation, not see. We saw the conversation, but we couldn't hear what was going on. But by judging by that body language, what did we get? We got fear instead of the respect. But again, at the same time, if you fear Ronnie, you're going to respect him enough to listen to what he says. And I truly believe in that moment, that white lady is not going to touch him at all. Now, another thing about fear and respect, I want to jump in with Jukebox situation, which I did not see coming. It was like, oh, I thought this was the moment where she like gets beaten. She decides, I'm quitting. I'm going into the hospital. But no, what does Jukebox do instead? Even with the knife pulled on her, she starts whooping that butt. And it was a good fight. Because remember when they hit her in the knee, I thought, oh Lord, her legs broke. She's going to die. Then I thought somebody's going to get hit by the train. And then I was like, oh no, I'm from New York City. The second you get hit by a train, we know that means you're not getting to your destination at all. That's a huge thing. That's one thing that you don't want when you're by that train station. Please, Lord, don't let this person act a fool and get hit by the train because you know your whole day is going to be ruined. And back then, remember, they had cabs. They didn't have the Ubers and the Grubhubs, even though they have the Grubhub now because that's what Kanan is doing. But they didn't have the Ubers and all of those transportations. And the bus, wherever they located, the Queens, the buses are not good. God bless. But the transportation system there, I'm going to pray for y'all. It's 2024. It was bad in now and it was bad back then. Never changed. The point I'm simply making is this. She never feared what was going on, right? And she was able to fight back. And you saw how those girls was not expecting her to fight back either. But you saw the fear that they carried when they got their butts beat. And they realized that she was still going to able to be in the group and go on with her day and not be threatened. And when she showed up to the rehearsal, even though she was 2 minutes late, she still showed up. And what was that first thing that she did? Oh, I'm fine, meaning they're not going to scare me. And she went right to Crystal. And she let her know, whatever shenanigans that you're trying to do to me, I'm unfazed. And remember the shenanigans that you tried to play with Aisha, with kissing Kanan. They were both unfazed. So I wonder, in terms of fear and respect that we have going on, is Crystal going to start being able to respect Jukebox? Because you realize I can't get people to beat her up. I can't make her to be late. I can't come between her and her cousin. Because remember, she was going to go beat the cousin's butt, but it was only because Crystal said, "Hey, don't do it." So I'm just wondering, not Crystal, Aisha, sorry. I was wondering, is this now we're going to see more of a, I respect you, I don't like you. I may be a little bit fearful from you, but we're going to not mess with each other anymore like that. Or is she going to start continuing to do shenanigans? Because we see another thing that's interesting is that Jukebox went back to the military office and she spoke to the sergeant and she was kind of, even though she didn't fully say it, but she's having second thoughts about joining the military. But she did sign the contract, and I don't know anything in terms of military law and stuff. I don't know if it's a bullying tactic, but I don't know if she can get out of that contract. But you did see that it didn't really scare her. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? We never saw that. So she's going to have some tough choices to make. And I don't know if the choices will be made for her. Again, we know something that the group doesn't last, long term. But maybe this is a very significant part of her life. Maybe she is able to get out of the military. Maybe the military is the reason why she really can't continue with the group. Again, I don't know. Another character that was very interesting obviously has to go back with Lulu. I genuinely thought, oh, this is the episode where, Lulu gets himself, but he didn't. He's still alive. I don't know why, but he's still alive. And I'm starting to feel, forgive me, y'all gonna come for me, and I'm sorry. I'm starting to feel that this is giving me a bit of the unique vibes in terms of what more can we do with this character. He either has the option of getting clean and hushing his mouth, or he has the option of going away and never being seen again, like on his own, like I'm walking away not because he killed himself or others killed him, but that's also an option too. Storyline wise, I don't think mentally he's there to be there with any of these characters with his family anymore. I don't think when it comes to Rock needs something to be done that he can do it. We see that it's eating him up inside. Sorry. And he is starting to fear the consequences of his actions, not by police, but by internal himself. And all of the things that he has done for Rock, on camera, off camera, remember, this has been going on for years. We're just now meeting him. And this is starting to come back and haunt him. And this also connects to the previous monologue at the very end when 50 Cent was talking about ghosts and how the ghosts will come back and haunt you, and it's really hard, especially at night. And then you climb into this episode when it talks about being alone. And where is Lulu the majority of the time? Alone. We've seen him in the alleyway, alone. We've seen him in the car with the gun, alone. Even when he's in the house, he's alone. The studio, alone. His mama, alone. So, so sorry. I am starting to feel that there's nothing else that this character can really bring. And that for me, I wish that they would have elongated this storyline and started it earlier because it's going to feel rushed. But I do feel that this is coming to an end for Lulu. And I say that as a character. I love the actor. I want him to do more things. He's fully capable of that. But in terms of character wise, things have to start wrapping up. And he may have to get God real soon and get himself. What's really interesting regarding that is how Marvin wants to save him. He has this kind of, I know we say so much about white savior, but it is the black savior moment. Even when he was with them two kids in the previous episode, I'm starting to view him as like this weird black savior that I really hope they're not going to keep giving him a role in. But, it's going to be really interesting because he's trying to save everyone. Jukebox, let her give her a career. Let's go save Lulu. Let's go save Gerald's white babies. Let's go save Gerald. But who's gonna save him? Because now we know what's popping off at the end when Gerald's sitting up there, now sober. Yay, see the work of Marvin. Yay. But he went into the car and we saw the FBI and he was the informant that they was referring to. And I truly feel that no one can save him unless it's Howard. But let's all be honest. Well, at least me, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Howard will do that. I think Howard is going to look out for himself, his position. He may whisper something to Raquel, but it just may be a whisper. I do not see him being that kind of person who's going to be like, look, Marvin, this is happening. Oh my God, you got to run. I don't see this at all happening. So I do believe that Marvin is going to probably end up in the prison system or most likely in a big shootout and he is going to expire. So it's very unfortunate, but we are starting to see what happens with this family and I don't know going by how things are and again I'm just speaking off the top of my head, I don't know how many seasons this show is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be 8. I don't know if it's 20 or if it's going to just be 4 and 5. But it seems like they're starting to wrap things up with this family quickly. Now, I could just be jumping the gun because remember when Ghost was in jail? Ghost was in jail, and we're like, oh, well, we're going to spend season, I don't know, 4 and 5 with him in jail. And like 2 episodes later, he was out. I don't know, but it seems like things are starting to catch up with the family rather quickly. So, also going with that, the whole fear and respect, kind of to tie everything together, obviously has to go to the pops, the snackle, the crack, snaps, Raquel. That situation was very interesting. And I remember I interviewed Miss Patina Miller, who is amazing and wonderful. And she said to me when I asked her, you know, are they basically using Kanan as a pawn? And as a mother, what are you going to do versus the businesswoman who has to have respect in this game? And she said that's when the lines are going to be blurred. There is no, you cross my family, I'm going to still respect certain rules. You come for my son. When I respectfully asked you to not do that, I'm coming hell high water. We're bringing the army, the plague, the 4 horsemen that are much better than the other horsemen from the fourth show. So I expect this to probably be a war. And we kind of got that declaration of war between Raquel, Pops, and Snaps when Wendell Pierce said, you know, this is no longer about Ronnie. This is about us. She disrespected us. She came into our place. She threatened us. Oh, it's going to be all war from now. So that goes in with the respect versus fear and how Kanan said they have to play hand in hand with each other. And as you can see, neither party is fearing each other. And I don't think Ronnie has the actual capabilities to fear someone. It's just not built into him. I don't think he was born with emotion aside from like, I'm just going to be a serial killer and scare people. So I genuinely fear this is going to be a huge showdown. I don't know if this means this is how we get rid of Ronnie because I personally like Ronnie. I want him to stay for several seasons. He's just yay for me. Um, but I'm really interested in seeing how this plays out with Snaps, Pops, and Raquel. Because Raquel, not Raquel, Snaps, no, who was the whomever is Erica Campbell's character. I get those two confused. She's Pops. So so with Pops, you know, she doesn't seem like she's all in. Remember, it was Snaps who declared we're basically going to war. She was like, you know, all of this for Ronnie. Can we just like leave it alone? But it seems to me that they're a partnership. And if he says we ride at dawn, she's there at 5 a.m. with the coffee pot just waiting. So that's what it seems like to me. It's going to be very interesting to watch that showdown, and also going with Raquel and the fear and the respect, how she took out Juliana. You know how she's talked about I don't make mistakes. I learn from everything that I do. You didn't respect me, so you have to pay the price. And you saw her all like, no, don't, no. And you know she did the execution style shoot when there's 2 in the chest and 1 in the head. Very lovely. So that's all I have to say. I love the episode.
Yeah, definitely. I like how you pointed out it was two in the chest, one in the head, because that's exactly what she told Kanan to do um, in season one. So that's very important. That's her signature execution style, I guess. But yeah, and also I agree with what you were saying about Ronnie. It really feels like his character is kind of like come to its end already. So I could
No, not
def
Ronnie. Not Ronnie.
I mean no
Lulu.
sorry, not Ronnie. I meant Lulu. Lulu. Yeah, I could see his character coming to an end this season, and it seems like they're leading up to that because they keep bringing back the mother as well, and the mother hasn't really been a big part of the show before, but now she's been in this season quite a few times, so it really feels like they're setting up to get rid of one of the siblings, one or two of the siblings, Raquel's siblings. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Lulu in the next two episodes that we have. But great takeaways as always, great observations, and we're gonna pass it over to Richard Bailey Jr. now. So, Richard, when you're ready, let us know what you think.
Okay, first and foremost, excellent breakdown and takeaways from Dana as always. There's a lot of things that she said that I am going to touch upon. But yeah, we got to start by saying she did an excellent job breaking down all the stuff in this episode. So thumbs up on that. So my opinion of this episode, fantastic episode. A lot of things happening story-wise, but I have three particular takeaways because I'm sure we're going to talk about a few other things when Gary asks his questions as he normally does. So my first takeaway from this episode, I have to once again go back to my name for this episode, Gerald the Rat. We need to talk about Marvin and Gerald. Now, let me just say this. The revelation that he is basically an FBI informant, this is how you tell a story, because this wasn't something that just happened. They gave us pieces of this information throughout the entire season. When you saw that Gerald would ask Marvin certain question. He asked him about who is Dean? How do you know Dean? Then you asked Marvin all these other questions. So this was a buildup of time where you saw this. And again, the relationship between Gerald and Marvin, this goes all the way back to last season when they were in Renee's group and Gerald didn't get along with Marvin. And then that started to change as they went through their entire process of trying to get better. And pretty much going into this season, you see that Marvin is still looking out for Gerald, but Gerald obviously has a serious drug addiction problem. And he also has the two daughters, which again, this is how he bonds with Marvin because they both have daughters. So this is going to be a very heartbreaking turn when this revelation finally is brought to Marvin's attention. And I think what the point that you made, Dana, about the fact that Marvin is worried about saving everybody else, this is what makes it tragic because he's worried about saving Gerald, worried about saving Lou, and yet at the same time, he's not worried about himself. And again, Howard is very much aware that the FBI are investigating Marvin, didn't tell Raquel this in the last episode. And also, Howard needs to watch his back as well because Burk's dad is coming for him after the revelation in this episode. So this is why it's so exciting. They have so many things happening story-wise, so many characters that are going to have a lot of bad things coming to them in the next couple episodes. So I look forward to seeing which direction they go. And I do want to mention one last thing about this takeaway with Marvin. I do like that this entire episode, they were trying to find out what Kanan has been doing. And Marvin does make the discovery that Kanan is basically selling heroin with Ronnie. And pretty much, I like how they laid that all out, how Marvin investigated the situation, brought the information back to Raquel, and then also how Marvin played a role later in the episode to make sure that, Raquel would basically won't have any issues with the other brother as she's trying to expand the business. You had the one brother named Terry who wanted the exact same deal that she agreed to with Hong previously. How pretty much Marvin was there. They set up that guy with the woman that they had that was trying to seduce him. So I thought it's fantastic. So again, it shows that they already were the ones that set the deal. They wasn't going to back down. And again, this is why you got to give respect to Raquel for how she laid that out. So looking forward to seeing what happens with Marvin. But for fans of Marvin, I just want y'all to prepare because it doesn't look like this story ends well for him. I suspect he will get arrested by the end of the season. I don't think he's going to get killed, at least not yet, but I think getting arrested makes the most sense right now. So we'll see what happens. Second takeaway of this episode, I want to talk a little bit about Kanan and Raquel in this episode. You see, obviously, there is growing competition and a power struggle between them. And it kind of feels like, how anytime they talk about these power shows, it's like a game of chess with people making moves to, position themselves in basically to take over and achieve success. And this is how this relationship feels between Kanan and Raquel now. Raquel, as Dana alluded to, she did approach Pops and Smack to try to get some answers. And of course, they make it very clear. We only gave Ronnie the investment money. We don't have anything to do with how he's getting his product. But of course, now it is going to be a war because you brought them into this situation and they didn't like that she didn't really show them any respect. So then she does try this tactic where she finds out that what Kanan is doing. She decides to get the social worker involved and have her come visit Kanan to give him that demand. You must be back at the house in 24 hours. And then, of course, Ronnie intercepts that and scares this woman away, which is fantastic. And once again, but it's a constant game of chess back and forth to see what happens. And then finally, when she does find out that Juliana is the one that pretty much has been working with Ronnie, she gets all this information from Pernessa. This is when things turn upside down because she does kill Juliana. Now, obviously, as viewers, we knew sooner or later that this was going to happen because Juliana is a character that Raquel built up from season 1 and how she made the comments to her about, yes, I helped you deal with your husband, gave you the strength to take control of that situation. And now you're basically trying to turn your back on everybody else. And I like how she went to her to her cousin and made sure she got the okay to pull off and execute the kill as well. So that was fantastic to finally get rid of that character. I know a lot of people did not like that character, but obviously because that character was connected to Ronnie and how he was getting his supply, now I suspect the next episode, that's going to be a bit of an issue with their business side, and Pops and Smacks may not like to hear that Kanan and Ronnie are having issues. So I want to see which direction they take with that particular thing, but it's not good news for Kanan and Ronnie. So I want to see what happens next. And finally, final takeaway of this episode, and this is by far to me the biggest takeaway and the best takeaway of this episode. I really love what they did with Jukebox in this episode. The fact that she established that now she is the leader of Butter, but then all the drama she went through with Crystal, basically sending her girls to the subway and they had that little showdown. It really emphasizes Jukebox as being a very resilient character, constantly not giving up, because you would think because she got into that fight and she was late to her rehearsal, oh yeah, now she's going to be in trouble of losing her spot. But no, she made sure to whoop them girls very quickly, got to the rehearsal in time, and still told Crystal, so what? What are you going to do now? Just to let her know she can't be played with. I love that for this character. I think that Haley is doing an excellent job as the character. And it really emphasizes this. This shows you that this is kind of like the Jukebox we saw on the OG Power. She didn't take any mess. She always was moving full speed ahead on whatever it is she wanted to do. And I like that we saw that as far as what happened in this episode. She did have the second thoughts also about joining the army. So like I said, I look forward to seeing where they go with all of this. But fantastic job, fantastic character development for all these people in this episode. And the final thing I will say is this, since Gary mentioned it and since you mentioned it, Dana. The mom is very trifling. Raquel's mom is very trifling. Not only can she not help and save her son, can't even watch him, you can't even cook breakfast for your son. You got toast I mean, come on now, guys. They just make her look absolutely horrible. Horrible mother. But now I understand why the kids do what they do. But that's all I wanted to say. But yeah, excellent episode. Go ahead, Dana.
Didn't the breakfast, maybe it's me, it reminded me of the original scene from The Color Purple when Mister was trying to fix Suge breakfast and almost burnt down the house and everything was all burnt food and burnt toast and burnt sausages and the eggs were black. That's exactly what it reminded me of. And also when that train scene, when she pulled out the knife on a jukebox, all I thought of was the Michael Jackson song. Remember when he pulled out, there was
Beat
about the
it.
two gangs fighting in this Beat It? That's
Yep.
all I thought about. And you had like the old trains with the old subways, so I'm like, that's Beat It. And that's the Gulliver.
I could see that. I could see that 100%. I just think, listen, they make the mom so trifling and worthless as a character. Come into the kids. Let me ask you for money. You're going to give me money to do all this other stuff, but she can't even cook a meal for her son. Come on now, this character is ridiculous. So let's see what happens. But I hope Gary's theory is correct. You know, Lulu is at his end. So let's see how his going away, his death impacts the entire family, because it is going to impact. I assume a lot of people in the family. So we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, that toast was disrespectful, man. Like she didn't even try and like scrape it off, because like when you burn toast sometimes, like if you're really trying to save it, like you could scrape off the black a little bit. She didn't even do that. Like that's
That was
disrespectful.
embedded. That was embedded burnt toast. You can't scrape that away.
Yeah. And even when he didn't eat it, she didn't eat it. So it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, she had to put it down.
Yeah,
that's funny. But yeah, great takeaways, Richard, as well. What one of your takeaways is actually very similar to one of mine. So yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and get into mine. But before I do, well done to you both for having excellent observations as always. A keen eye for the details. So that's good. But yeah, so my first takeaway is going to be about Ronnie. And to me, it really seems like there's only three people that Ronnie has shown respect for in this show, and that is Snaps, Pops, and Kanan. Like it seems like with these three characters, Ronnie acts differently. He tends to be a lot more agreeable with these characters and a lot less threatening and imposing. So to me, it makes me wonder if one of them is going to be his downfall. Well, if one or all of them, maybe it could even be all of them, is going to be his downfall, because he definitely shows a different side of himself, in particular to Kanan. It just in the way he talks to him, he shows him a lot of respect, and we see that he's like kind of taking him under his wing, and he's also helping him out with like very authoritative issues, like something that a parent would help him out with, which is the social worker issue. Like he went to go talk to the lady. I guess he threatened her. We didn't hear that conversation. I wish we did, because that would have been very entertaining to hear what he said to her. But he went and handled that so that the social worker wouldn't be bothering Kanan anymore. And this definitely makes things very interesting with how the story is unfolding now, because we know that Kanan, he wants to be far removed from his mother. He doesn't want to be associated with her at all right now. So really, he has no parent. There's nobody that he's kind of looking to be his parent at this moment. And Ronnie is actually his business partner. But Ronnie is also now filling in the gap, you know, um, of that parent figure, I guess, in a way. And he's kind of, indirectly learning from him. And, it's just, I just love how this story is all coming together with, now Raquel is directly in competition with them. So now it's directly affecting her business. And now, that with how things are developing, it means Ronnie has to retaliate now. There has to be some retaliation with how this ended. So I'm just loving how they've set up all the pieces, on the chessboard. One of you said it's a lot like chess, and yeah, I just love how the chessboard is looking right now. Like it's going to be interesting to see what leads up to the checkmate and who makes the checkmate. So yeah, but that was just something I observed is that Ronnie, he definitely lets his guard down with those characters, Snap, Pops, and Kanan. And I noticed that Pops, she's always like kind of low key insulting him as well, like saying he's Urkel, and all this stuff. So, and he lets it slide. I guess these characters have a lot of history. So, maybe this is just how they grew up. They were cracking on each other a lot and stuff, and that's cool to see. But I definitely feel like Snaps and Pops, they're in it for the money. Um, they don't really care that much about Ronnie, and I feel like they would sell him out if the opportunity came. So he has to be mindful of that, I think. And speaking of Snap and Pops, that's my second takeaway as well because they are great characters. Because Power has a lot of these like I guess connect type figures. The plug or the money people. The people who are supplying or giving money or whatever. Like they have a lot of these background characters, like Simon Stern, for example, and also Dean, who is now dead. He was like one of those background kind of figures who kind of, they went to for certain things. But Snap and Pops feel a lot more developed than that. It really feels like they have lived in this world, even though we haven't seen them before this season. It feels like they have a lot of history rooted in Queens and Southside, just the way they were talking to Raquel, and clearly they know DEF CON, they know all about that history and everything. Of course, they know Ronnie from way back, and even just the way that they were able to like they know that Raquel is dealing with Stefano, and they know Stefano even, and they know that Stefano, likes the sisters. He likes the black women. So just them knowing all this, like it just feels like they were part of this show the whole time, but they were just in the background. And Raquel knows of them as well. And I really enjoyed that conversation they had, like that, where Raquel went to see them and tell them not to, mess with Kanan, to step away, because we know that Raquel, first of all, I have to give props to Bettina Miller because in this episode, Raquel was on her boss ish, like she was getting gully in this episode, like, and I loved every minute of it. So yeah, she was really on her boss tip in this episode, but Pops and Snap did not back down. They didn't take the disrespect from Raquel. They told her about herself. Like, they threw it right back at her and told her, look, we don't care about, what you're doing because we paved the streets that you're working on. They pushed back. They said, we've been doing this before you. So who are you to come in here and tell us what to do? And they made it clear that it's about money and that, they're in business with Ronnie and, this is the situation. So I just love how they stood their ground like that. And it just makes me interested to see where it goes from here. Because I feel like these characters will be around for a while now. I think, and I have a little theory. I feel like, like I just said with the first takeaway, I feel like they will turn on Ronnie. I feel like they'll sell out Ronnie. So I feel like we could see Raquel maybe later on making a deal with Snap and Pop or something like, something to that degree. So yeah, that's just my theory at the moment. It might not happen because there's so many ways it can go. but I do think that these characters will be in the show for a very long time, and I'm happy about that because they're doing them justice. So that's good. And third takeaway is basically what Richard was saying about Marvin. Marvin, he's definitely been on a journey since season two. To kind of better himself. In season two, we saw that he went through anger management, and he came out a lot better, even though he lost Renee in the process. But he came out as a better person, and he's more understanding of Jukebox, and the type of person she is, and her sexuality and everything. And in this season, we see him doing just genuine good guy stuff, like helping kids out, cooking for the kids, taking them out, looking after them and stuff. Gerald's kids and stuff. So we're seeing so many layers to the character, because even though he is a criminal too and he kills people, he's also being a good role model to these kids, and helping them out and stuff. But he's going to be faced with some tough decisions now, I think, because Gerald, as we saw, is cooperating with the feds. He's an informant, and like Richard said, he's been informing the whole time. It seems like, because of course a few episodes back, I can't remember how many episodes it was, but when they first showed Howard, the picture of Marvin, it seemed like that they must have been talking to Gerald then, and that's how they got the information. So now they're asking questions about Bulletproof, or well, Gerald was asking, Marvin about Bulletproof, like, who owns it, how did your family, how did Jukebox get into it, and all this stuff. And Marvin wasn't having it. He wanted to change the conversation. So I think I hope that he um, suspects something now. I mean, he basically told him that he's talking to a cop. So I mean, Marvin's, red, his antennas have to be raised after that, like, because that's a red flag. So he's gonna be faced with a tough choice, because how snitches get dealt with. Um, snitches get stitches. They end up at the bottom of the river, the Hudson, whatever. So um, so I think, like, it's going to be a tough choice for him to make, because he is looking after those kids, and he's going to have to leave them without a parent. So, and in this episode, he was like talking to Raquel, and he was telling her that he likes who he's becoming, the things that he's doing in his life. He's kind of proud of himself, but now he's going to have to go completely against that, because the two sides of him are catching up. That these two different sides of him are button heads now, and it's all coming full circle. So you're going to be the criminal, or you're going to be the stand-up guy. You have to make that choice, and it unfortunately seems like he won't get to make the choice, because it's too late. I think he's probably going to get locked up, this season. So because they're really far along in the investigation. So I don't know if killing Gerald will help, because even if he does, they're probably going to know where it came from. So I don't know. I think it's a very tragic story, especially if you look at things in totality with Marvin and Lulu. It's very tragic to see where it's heading at this moment. But yeah, those are my takeaways for this week. I really want to get to the discussion, so that we can talk about stuff in more detail. But this was overall, I'll say this was another good episode. Very interesting. I loved seeing Raquel's progression throughout the episode and stuff. So yeah, another goodie. But yeah, let's dive right into the questions then. So, because I want to see what you guys think about what is going to happen.
Wait,
So
wait, didn't Richard, you have your hand up?
go ahead. What do you
Oh
say?
no. Oh no, go
Oh,
ahead. Continue.
Oh, what did someone have their hand up? Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, yeah. So let's get straight to this one, right? So let's take into account what happened at the end. Raquel, she pulled up on Juliana. She shot her twice in the chest and one in the head. Um, we saw that she had the conversation with Joaquin prior to this. I'm guessing some time passed by the time she actually executed Juliana, and that Joaquin gave the go ahead and everything. So we know that, currently the arrangement is that, Ronnie is getting the supply from Juliana. So now that she's dead, he can no longer get that supply. And Joaquin had nothing. He had nothing to do with this apparently. So that leaves Ronnie with a big problem of how they're going to move product or how they're going to have product to even move. So what do you think Ronnie is going to do to respond to this once he finds out that Juliana, is dead? And will he go to Joaquin? Do you see him possibly having a conversation with Joaquin about this? So I'm going to go to you first this time, Richard. What do you think?
That's a very good question. I can see him confronting Joaquin at some point. Maybe he thinks that he is the one that cut off the supply. But also, I kind of feel like Pernessa might be in some trouble because, she is the one that was basically told Raquel this. And the last time she saw Ronnie with Juliana, Juliana said, that's somebody you need to watch out for. Family is very dangerous. Probably need to deal with that situation. So I'm kind of curious if he is going to be suspicious of that. But I do think by the end of next week, I don't know how it's all going to play out, but I do think by the end of next week, he's going to figure out Raquel did this, and that will set up a very interesting, exciting season finale. I think that's the path they're going to go into. But his instinct, I think, is going to probably approach the brother and see what's happening. And maybe at that point, the brother will just tell her that, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I know maybe he will just tell him that Raquel did this. But I kind of feel like it's headed in that direction in the finale. So it's just a point of how they get there. But that's a very good question. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean he's left with very little option, unless he can find a new connect. I wonder if he's going to tell Snaps and Pops about it, or if he's just going to try and take matters into his own hands and go directly, at Raquel or something. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what he does. But Dana, do you got any thoughts on that?
yes, I think it's going to be really interesting because this is a situation where he can't probably threaten someone to get out of it. So it's. I would like to see how Ronnie is going to settle kind of circumstances and situations that he finds himself in because we really don't see him interact aside from just looking like Mike Myers and saying, "You better get this work in, I'm gonna kill you," or beating someone over the head. Him having to explain things and probably negotiate and strategize. That's going to be interesting. We just don't see that from Rodney. Also, on top of that, if he's not able to meet his quota with snaps and pops, that's another thing he has to worry about. And the thing with, I spoke to Erica Campbell, what she said about Pops was, remember when she first met him? And she's like, oh, Rodney, Urkel. It was like the very first time. And they hugged. That wasn't like, oh, I miss you hug or just, a welcoming hello hug. That was her patting him down. So there's always going to be kind of that weird relationship between those three characters, especially with her. If he's not able to pull his weight, are they going to quickly get rid of him? Or is there going to be some type of shenanigans going down? Is Ronnie going to figure out that, hey, it was Raquel that actually did this? And is he going to step to Raquel? Because if you look at it, he really wasn't in the equation. Yes, she knows that Rodney is working with her son. But remember, she came to Pops and Snaps to say, hey, leave my boy alone. She didn't come to Rodney. So now it's going to be Rodney versus her as well. Um, but I would like to see how he is able to navigate this situation. I don't see him being, we all know he is not a people person. When it comes to conversation, it is something that he just cannot do. This is when I think maybe Kanan is going to have to step in and be the strategizer, because we've seen how Rodney helped him with the CPS. You got to repay that back. You got to help me now. We're scratching each other's backs. So that's how I see this being dealt with. Kanan is going to probably be the one who has to deal with this or figure out how to execute this while Rodney could tell him what to do. So that should be an interesting relationship there.
Yeah, because that's another thing I was gonna ask as well. Like, because we've seen Kanan, when it came to Famous and when it came to Jukebox, he told Ronnie like, don't go at them. I'll deal with it or whatever. Do you think that if Ronnie, gets to the point where he's ready to go after Raquel, is Kanan gonna push him aside and say, no, let me handle this. Don't touch my mother. Don't do anything. Is he gonna stop Ronnie from retaliating? So I guess you think so.
Did we?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. Did we get our innocent this season? Because I feel like isn't every season we get an innocent, somebody who wasn't really involved with this, and they die, but we didn't get one this season. So maybe it's time for that to happen. Famous is getting his feelings out in his song. Maybe it's going to be him. I don't see. We all know it's not going to be Jukebox. Yeah.
Is that the 411, Dana? That's the 411, right? That's Famous' song. So yeah,
that's the 411. And then the stranger Ronnie pulled a gun. So there you go. That could be it. Because remember, he met him one time, and he was almost peed on himself. So he knows what Famous looks like. And remember, he's one of those people that stores everything. I think he has a photographic memory, but he stores everything in that brain. And so he could be that person, because it's definitely not going to be Jukebox, because we all know how it ends. But navigating, pivoting a little quickly, we know that Jukebox ends up getting involved in this lifestyle. If it's a situation where she has to save Kanan from himself because of Rodney, I can see her stepping in. Because remember, in the end, we know they end up like this. But remember, Kanan is terrified of Jukebox. So Jukebox has to do something that's so horrendous that carries it through those years. Maybe this is when Rodney tries to step to Jukebox something, to get back at Kanan, and and Jukebox has to retaliate. I don't know. Maybe she ends up in the military. She gets one of those guns. Maybe this could be seasons later. I don't know. But we're still looking for that vicious cold-bloodedness that has to come from Jukebox. I don't think Rodney's going to be into it. But I wonder who, aside from his mother, is going to have Kanan's back. Who can protect Kanan aside from his mother? I don't think Snaps and Pops is going to take that. And here's a weird situation where I see these two characters. To me, Kanan and Ronnie's relationship is what Kanan and Defcon's relationship would have been if Defcon didn't go to jail. So, if he unknowingly, weirdly, steps into that fatherly role, who is to say that, Kanan is going to do anything to cross him? And they're going to cross each other. Because the thing I feel with Rodney, and the reason why he gravitates towards Kanan's not unique. Kanan is listening to him. He looks up to him. He is that mentor, as you guys said. Unique was doing things his way. He used to look up to him. He used to respect him. He used to do everything that he said. He stopped doing that, and that's when things started to get sloppy and slow and lazy. But Kanan's at that point where it's like, feed me more. I want to know what's going on. Teach me. So we have that Obi-Wan situationship.
Yeah, that's true. Like Kanan is young and impressionable, so Ronnie can kind of input a lot of his values into him and stuff. And then also, I think Ronnie probably knew DefCon because, well, yeah, he did because when Snaps and Pops were talking about him, and I think it was Ronnie that said, yeah, he was feared or something like that. So he knows him. So it could be all. It could also be a thing where because he knew his pops, and they had a close friendship or something. So he's like, okay, that's his son. So I'm gonna take him under my wing as well. I also think it's what you said as well about he's not like unique and he can input his values and everything. So it could be all of this stuff. Um, but Rich, you were gonna say something, so go ahead.
I just was going to say, I agree with the points that you both made. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens when Ronnie does decide to go after Raquel, because Kanan has already told Ronnie in the previous episode when Jukebox was there, she stopped by. He said, no, our business is only working together. You don't deal with anything having to do with my family. So it is a test to see what could happen in that situation, when that eventually happens. But to answer answer the question you asked originally, I do think, Roddy is going to be in a very tough situation. If they did go back and tell Snaps and Pop what happened, the fact that they don't have a connect, the pressure will then be on them. What I think is going to end up happening is it's basically going to be a flip of what happened in this episode, but as far as they're concerned, because this episode there was pressure on Raquel and Marvin to try to get business going because they realized that there was competition. Now I feel like that's what's going to happen with Kanan in the next episode with him and Ronnie. And by the way, just so people know, we did not see the trailer early of the next episode. However, I do know that the next episode is titled Home to Roost. This is pretty much the line that Raquel had in this episode when she was talking about how they were going to have to deal with Lulu. So I'm very curious to see, because what I think that means is that as viewers, for the majority of this season, Kanan has had success from a business standpoint up until this point. So in this next episode, he's probably going to have a lot of struggles now that they have this issue with the drug supply. So stay tuned for that. That's what I think is going to happen next. But definitely curious to see how Roddy deals with this, because what we do know is that he is very unhinged. When he finds out who was involved, he's going to come right after that person. And I would not be surprised if when he does go and question Juliana's cousin and doesn't get answers, if he actually takes this guy out next. I mean, that could definitely happen, but we'll have to stay tuned and see what happens.
Go ahead, Dana.
Did anybody get like a weird sense that I don't think that they worked together and that they were friends? Being friends with Ronnie is I don't see it happening at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really interesting that Pops and Snaps kept bringing up the fact, yeah, DEFCON wouldn't look at any other girl. He wouldn't go on any dates until he met Raquel. And we didn't know this story of what was really going on with DEFCON. And the fact that, for me, Rodney is so observant because he just sits there on the corner all the time. I wonder if he knew, because he didn't say anything either. So it just made me wonder who's like, yeah, I know you didn't have any man because your pops was not really that way. And also he went to jail. So maybe he's purposely stepping in. I wonder. It's weird because I can't read this man at all, he's doing a superb job because I just can't read him. But I just found that conversation, because why keep bringing up, I knew your father or he ran the block. I loved working with him. It was, he wouldn't talk to any women. It was kind of weird. he wouldn't. The girl would try to rub on him and he would just run away screaming. So I just wonder if he knew what was really going on. And because I think he observed so much, but we just got introduced later. But I do wonder if there was going to be an interaction with Kanan and Howard because he's so observant. Is he able to put what's really going on together? And therefore, he can use that as ammunition against Raquel. Because remember, the streets don't like when you are basically have a kid with an ops. Oh, you was working with the police the whole time? That brings in a whole other list of enemies. So I wonder what he has up his sleeve and why exactly is it Kanan? Because you can't just say, oh, I like the way that you was running the Uber weeds. It has to be a little bit something more, I fear.
Yeah, I agree. Then Gary about to say something.
Oh no, I thought you were gonna say something.
Oh no, I was just laughing. I was just laughing at the reference to Uber weed. I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Like Kanan really did invent Uber, but yeah, I think that's a good theory. There's actually I'm gonna go even further with it because I've heard some theories about some people possibly being gay. So I mean, is it possible that Ronnie is because he was a bit stone faced during that Juliana kiss, like he wasn't really into it. So and then
I don't know. That's an interesting one, Gary. I'm curious to hear what people have to say about that.
Wait, not to talk about somebody's sexuality or anything, but that would just add so many different dynamics to the show that I don't think that they are going to do. But see, I viewed it as, I don't know if it's like if he's on the spectrum, but I viewed it as maybe he was on the spectrum and he does not like physical touch he genuinely seemed like a person who hates people, just in general. And we've seen him when he took that picture of that group that was a reference to the other group in the real life, that he was just standing off the side, like even just to go like this and to still be stone faced, he can't do. So I just viewed it as like, no. I mean, that would be. See, that reminds me of that. There's a TikTok video going around of like a guy playing Ronnie, him just standing there and then pulling down the woman's pants because he was ready. And I don't know. I can't picture it to be that way. And it's not to say that it's because he doesn't like women so much. I just can't.
Now,
it would be interesting.
The
Wire did it with Omar.
That's what I was just about to say. Gary, is that where you're going with this? You think the people are saying that because Omar was gay on the show? They revealed that? Is that a possible direction?
I mean, yeah, that's just a rumor. I like personally, I hope they don't even mention the sexuality at all. Like, because I don't think they need. I don't think they need to. But that's a growing theory, and it does seem like the show is kind of throwing hints because they're mentioning like, oh, I've never seen it with women, and all this stuff. Like, so I don't know. I don't know if that's where they're going, but it's a theory that exists. But the Omar thing is interesting. I don't think they need to copy Omar or try to mimic that because Ronnie's doing a great job being his own character.
I agree 100%. Let me just say, first and foremost, rest in peace to Michael K. Williams. He was an excellent actor. So that's unfortunate that but I will say this, I also don't think that they need to go in that direction. I mean, they have us believe that Ronnie is just a very unique character. He has a lot of mental issues and certain stuff with him. Very OCD and how he organizes stuff. Like I know we give a shout out to a lot of comments from last week. There was comments about when they picked up Paul in the last episode, and then he goes into the room and he picks up the jacket and puts it on the, on the hook, stuff like that. Yeah, some of the stuff would make you laugh, but this guy really does have some mental issues as well, and just a very intense individual. So I don't think they're going to take that particular direction. But well, go ahead, Dana.
emotionally maladjusted. I don't think mental issues is the right word. We do know that there's definitely OCD in there. He likes
Yeah.
things that are routine and likes structure. He cannot, but I think he reads social cues perfectly fine. I
Mhm.
think he does it, but he just doesn't care. That's the thing. He wants to make you uncomfortable. In a oh wait, hi, maybe. Hmm. It's a form of being a sociopath. He, to me, it feels like where his whole job is to purposely make you uncomfortable, and that is something that we've seen. Yes, you can say he doesn't read certain social cues and he doesn't know how to react in public situations. But
Mhm.
I think there is sociopathic tendencies that's built into Rodney. So yes, you can say mental illness because sociopathic. But it's really interesting how they would mesh the two together. So that OCD situation, but he's like you don't see him as the one you would what's the name of that movie with Patrick Bateman, American Psycho. You don't see
Mhm.
him as the American Psycho version, but you see him as the very quiet version where I think his goal when he meets people is how uncomfortable can I make you? And
Mhm.
while he may not be able to read certain cues, I think there's a moment where he purposely knows that what he is doing may not be considered correct in a social setting, and he gets off on that. So it's interesting because we do see him in a way open up, but it's all you guys are saying, only to certain people. He's not letting in. So it's it's a weird blend of it. I just don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I love all of the takes on and all the analysis on Ronnie and his mannerisms and behavioral patterns and all that because he is very OCD. Clearly, could be on the spectrum. And I just love what they're doing with the character, like having a character like that, because we haven't really seen a unique kind of villain like that in a long time. So I think it's a great job. But another thing on go ahead, Dana.
No, no, I'll pose it at the end. Aha.
Oh, okay. Can't wait to see what you got. But yeah, another thing on Ronnie. So we know that Pernessa was the one that gave up the information indirectly. She didn't mean to, but she told Raquel that Ronnie had a girlfriend, and Raquel started pressing her on that, saying, how long has he had a girlfriend? Like, and yeah, and Pernessa was like, yeah, I saw him with the woman from the bodega, at the house or whatever. So she didn't mean to give her that much information, but she indirectly did it. So because she is the one that gave up the information, do you think Ronnie is going to put two and two together because he's already kind of warned Pernessa to kind of stay out his business and he doesn't want her to get hurt and stuff, and Juliana did warn him about her. So do you think that Ronnie is going to kind of figure out that she was the one to talk, and is he going to kill her for that? What do you think, Dana?
I think that's the wrong question. I think the question honestly is did she intentionally do it? Because you look at it this way. Yes, she is terrified of Ronnie, and I do understand that, and she is a mother, but in a way, she wants some kind of payback for what happened with Unique, which they still haven't found the body. There's no funeral. We don't know what's going on there. Maybe they're gonna bring him back and be like, "Hey, surprise! My tour is over. I'm alive." Um, but what's really interesting is, in a way, because that is the father of her child, she did love Unique, even though he was a hot mess running around with Raquel. Even though Lulu warned him about his business with Raquel, I find this to be whether or not she intentionally said something in a way so that there would be revenge against Rodney. She knows she can't do it. But we've seen how Raquel acts and how she behaves, and she knows who Raquel is. So maybe she was hoping in a way that she would take care of it. So maybe it wasn't like, I'm going to tell her the next time I saw her, but she saw a window of opportunity and she feigned oh, I better go now. Oh, my phone's ringing. Oh, it's too much. So it may look like a slip up, but I think she wanted to kind of steer her in the right direction a little bit. So for me, I think that it was intentional. Now we do have the consequence of whether or not Ronnie is now going to come after her. Yes, but here's the thing. If she lives or dies, how does this change the story? How does it impact anything? We don't see the kid, so it's not like, oh, she's this big devoting mother who is, looking for her husband, and we have this kind of storyline where we follow her. We don't. She's kind of like a side character. She's just someone who that scene was just there to do a callback on the scene of Juliana on the couch. It was just a scene to connect to another thing to get to a beat where Juliana is killed. So for me, her death or her living doesn't do anything for the story, and it does nothing for me. So her giving her that information, I think, was just to serve a purpose to get to the next scene, which was Juliana. So, if he kills her, he kills her. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Who cares?
Well, that it could be important because that kid could grow up to be another power villain for Tariq or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah. Hey, well, listen. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
But Rich, what do you think about Pernessa? Do you think Ronnie is gonna put two and two together, and is he gonna go see Pernessa?
I kind of feel like Ronnie, as you both said, Ronnie is very observant, even though he doesn't really say much. I kind of feel like he is going to suspect that she did say something to Raquel. And if anything, he may not kill her, but he will get an answer definitively from her by the end of the next episode. Yes, Raquel knows some information or something to that effect. I don't know, because again, he did make mention of the fact that is Jerome's mom. So, it would be a real bad situation to take out the mom and all this other stuff. So I don't really know which direction they're heading in, but I kind of feel like he is going to, once again, remind her next week, I know where you're at. And then when he does show up, maybe she will be forced to say, I did say something, mention something to Raquel. So I think either way, they're going to get to this point by the end of next season. I'm going to say by the end of the next episode, that Ronnie is going to know Raquel did it, and now his whole purpose in that season finale is to go after Raquel. I mean, that's how they're going to end this season, because you can't just have important people that are important to Ronnie as far as what he's doing business-wise get killed, that he's not going to retaliate. There's going to be some type of retaliation coming, probably in the next 2 episodes, but we'll see what happens. Go ahead, Dana.
Retort. Because if we're going about what people said, then we have to go about what Juliana said to Rodney. Juliana said, my brother, cousin, whatever that dude is, Joaquin, does not know I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. He would be upset if he knew. Therefore, you can also go with the theory, Rodney thought that it was Joaquin. Because she purposely stated, do not tell anybody else. We are working in secret.
Absolutely. And that means that Joaquin is going to get killed next week then.
No, this means that this actually solves the supply problem. Because Joaquin, while he may not know what Juliana did, he can also use his connects to help Raquel or to help Ronnie. So I think the supply situation may end up being solved. And also, they're in competition with each other. While Kanan does not know this because he's the dumb pawn who's like, oh my God, I don't like my mother and I'm doing this because, and remember what they said, what Jukebox said, you're a little boy who's basically still upset and wants to make his mama pay attention to him, right? Raquel is too, I feel like, way above this. She's like, I'm trying to save your life. And he's like, yeah, notice me. So I do figure that this competition that they have between each other, that Kanan thinks that he might have but doesn't know about with Raquel, even though they did have a conversation, I think it was Snaps that did tell Pops that did one of the two, Crackle, told Kanan what was going on. So I think that this is a situation that's going to be nipped in the bud very quickly. But in terms of competition, there really is no competition. She can easily wipe Kanan out because, again, he hasn't learned all of the rules. But I do feel in some way, Joaquin, that scene of, I give permission, ever since the husband, he was acting crazy. That right there, I felt is significant and is going to come into later because now she's out the way. He has full control. There's no one reporting, both stabbing him in the back. Let me help you. So I don't know why the Italian accent came out instead, but instead, point is that could probably solve some of that supply situation or fill the void. I just don't know who's going to talk to whom because Joaquin definitely wanted nothing to do with Ronnie. But we do know he is having a conversation and a relationship with Raquel. So his competition is over if she ends up with all the supply. I don't know what the original question was, but yeah.
Yeah, and Dana, yeah, I recall you mentioned a comment. I think you said something along the lines of you want to play the drinking game every time I mentioned Breeze, so you might want to cover your ears for a sec. But
We were doing so good. I was gonna reward you because I was like, oh, Breeze is gonna come in and be the copy. He's gonna step in and maybe be the supplier. And I'm like, he didn't
yeah,
say
that's
that.
that's
So we're gonna
exactly what I
go.
was gonna say. Like
God,
maybe Breeze is a new supplier. Yeah, maybe a new player enters the game. Maybe that's what it
we were
is.
gonna go one whole episode without that stinking Breeze. I give up. I'm in.
Yeah, but that's it. I got in there and got out. That's it. That's all. That's the only Breeze reference for now. So it's
That's what
done.
he said.
It's out the way. But yeah, like good theories. I like your take on that the Joaquin thing because I think he's one of the only options Ronnie has. Like because he can't go to Stefano. He killed so who else is he going to get a supply from? Like it can only be a new character, or he has to go to Joaquin. So yeah, I guess the only other option as well would be to go with Raquel, and he's not going to work with Raquel. So he how Unique ended up working with Raquel. Ronnie's not going to do that because that's the whole reason he killed Unique in the first place. That's the reason why they wasn't seeing eye to eye. So he's not going to concede. So go ahead, Rich.
Well, one last point I do want to mention on this particular topic. Obviously, we have to see what happens in the next episode. Raquel very well could have already had a conversation with Joaquin and said, okay, I'm back in the game now. I need to work with you. And then that just shuts everything down. So we have to wait to see what happens next week. But if that is the case, then Ronnie going to be very, very angry in the next episode. So need to see what happens.
Yeah, this is kind of making me think maybe Ronnie does die this season because it's like what it makes me it makes me think that now what's going to happen is Ronnie is going to go on a rampage against Raquel because he has no more supply, and then Kanan is going to be forced to take his mother's side. And maybe, like Richard said, maybe Kanan is the one to take out Ronnie. So it makes me think that could be where it's going, but we'll have to see what happens in the next episode. and I'm going to be looking at that trailer very closely.
One last point I want to make, and this really will be the last point on this topic. I do agree. We have to wait to see what happens in the trailer. But I think the comments that you both made about this war between Pop, Snaps, and Raquel, that probably is the storyline for next season. So whatever happens with Ronnie, the Ronnie thing can extend a little bit into the next season. But if it ends at the end of the season, I mean, it is what it is. It's fine because they establish now we're in war with Raquel. So I kind of feel like that's the next natural direction. But we just have to wait and see how everything plays out on the show.
Yeah. So yeah, let's move on to avoid any more Breeze references, so I don't want to make Dana upset. I'm kidding. But okay, so Lulu, we have to talk about Lulu. I know that we're pretty much in agreement that his story seems to be coming to an end. Like, it's like, how is this story going to conclude? So we see in this episode, he shows up at Raquel's house. He's making a commotion, yelling that they're killers in the neighborhood, in the suburbs and everything. And Raquel has to get the mother to try and look after him. And obviously the mother wasn't really doing her job, and he stepped out. And yeah, we see Lulu being, he's bumbling all over the city, basically going to the bar and getting his tape and leaving a tape for Famous. And then we see him, peeing on the wall later on and getting, almost about to get robbed until he pulls out his gun. And the last shot we see of Lulu is him drinking in the car. And he turns and he looks at the gun in the seat. Now that was very suggestive. That was a very suggestive scene right there. And I think it was Dana that brought up that he's likely going to unalive himself. So do you think that is the conclusion for Lulu? Is that really what's going to happen? And do you think that will be a satisfying end for the character, if that's where it's going? So I'll go to you first this time, Rich. What do you think about that?
Well, let me just say this. I think that Dana's theory is 1000% correct. I could see that happening. Malcolm Mays is an excellent actor, but Lulu looked absolutely worthless in this episode. I was very surprised to see the episode start with him coming out to Raquel at his house. And, I asked the question last week. I said, what do y'all think his state of mind will be after killing Scrappy's mom? And we got an answer to that right to start off the episode. So I kind of feel like, though, this character, because the feds are supposed to be watching Raquel, right? Somebody I feel like should have heard that entire conversation where he's out there talking, saying all this other stuff. But yes, he is a liability to the entire family. At this point, I don't really think there is any redemption for the character. It does feel as though his purpose has been served. He made Famous's music, and then they had the scene in this episode where Famous comes back to the bar. He gets the tape, and then he says, "Hey, is it okay if I use the studio?" And the lady agrees. You can use the studio, but you need to do some stuff around here at the bar. So it kind of feels like we don't need to see Lou return, even in that particular setting. The only person that is concerned about Lou's well-being is Marvin, and Marvin should be concerned about himself. So that's why I say it feels like this is the end of the character. I could see him not making it to next season, but we have to wait and see. But the way they are portraying the character right now, he is at the end, and he is waiting to get taken out. So it's either he takes himself out, which I think is going to happen, or someone else takes him out. But it feels like this is the end of his story. I could be wrong, but I would like to see which direction they're going to take if he does have any type of redemption by the end of the season. But yes, when I saw this episode at the very beginning, I'm like, man, this guy is a serious liability. You have to deal with this situation. And obviously you can say mental health issues because of all the stuff that he's dealt with Raquel, the mom also having issues, all of that. But he has no one that he can talk to, vent with. Marvin seemed like he was the only one that would have been there for him. But that will not be for much longer, because if Marvin gets arrested, game over. So, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, Lulu, I feel bad for the character, but if he dies, I will not cry about it, because this guy, it's the way he was just talking in the last couple episodes. Maybe it's time for him to go. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, good thoughts. And he's been on such a self-destructive path that, yeah, it just really seems like, it can only go one or two ways. Either he takes himself out, or somebody does it for him. And who would do it, who would take him out, is still up for debate. But yeah, I mean, a few people come to mind, of course. Raquel, she might get sick and tired of him and be like, he's too much of a liability right now. But and you already know what the other option is. I'm not even going to mention it. So, but yeah, Lulu is not looking good for him right now. But Dana, what's your thoughts on Lulu? Like, is he gonna unalive himself?
I have a very interesting theory, and I think it's a callback to the actual lyrics. For people who don't know, they release the music that's in Power that they do, like in house, like the girls singing and Famous's song. They released it onto Twitter, and it's very interesting. I think we're starting to see Famous and Marvin, not Marvin, sorry, Lulu. They started at the same place essentially with an unable to cope with a murder, but they're going completely opposite directions. We see Famous is able to cope. We didn't see him this episode, but we're seeing him able to cope. He's with his mom. Yes, that's that whole gun situation that we don't know what it's about, but he feels like he is loved. He's back at home. We're apologizing. Things could start looking up. I genuinely want him just to stay away, and things would be really happy and going forward for him. No one has to get pow-powed. It's going to be perfectly fine for Famous. If you listen to the lyrics of Famous's song, which were the same songs, remember, for days he's been listening to the song over and over again, and he finally was able to, do his producing thingy on it and make it nice and professional. The lyrics of the song, if you will allow me to read, we all know that it's about a murder that he's incapable of, getting out of it. He's living with regret. And we know that if he can't sleep at night, he's having these thoughts. One of the things is it talks about how, I'm living with a murder. I might really confess. We've seen that already. We've seen that with this episode also. He's confessing to literally the world because no one is listening to him. So he's standing outside Raquel's door screaming, you want to commit another murder. And he's just this way of him trying to confess. What if they got evidence? We know what's happening with the FBI situation, right? Um, what if they spoke to residents? Gerald, he's also part of the park. It talks about it's messing with his head. He did it for money. He's saying that his life is over. He could hardly stay sober. What is he doing now? The drinking. He's unable to stay sober. He's not doing drugs. He's doing drinking, and it's heavy drinking. The story goes on. He says that he's unable to talk to anybody. He can't even talk to his family because they can't fix it. It then talks about this, how he's having the nightmares. I'm hallucinating. Maybe I should just leave the house. What does he do in this episode? He left the house, right? It goes on talking about after leaving the house, so I bounce. I go missing. No one knows where he's at. Remember that white woman who I can't remember who was in the bar? Oh, it seems like she knew in her spirit. She's one of those people because she's been around so long. She knows the behaviors because people come into the bar. She knows that remember he said, oh, it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months. He's gone. He's gone. We don't know when he's coming back. Baby, he got to go on that journey on his own. Um, then it says at the end how I'm a zombie at night. That's how I'm living my life. So I think that unless he unalives himself, that is what he is going to do. He's going to be that drunk on the street, being a zombie. His life is no longer exists. He is a shell of himself. In a way, you can make that argument when we've said, "Oh, he's like Franklin now." Remember when Franklin in Snowfall was wandering the streets with the bottle and he really turns into his father? This could be the path that he takes if he does not pull the trigger on that gun. Because guns jam all the time. So if it doesn't work out that way, I think that he could be that person who ends up the alcoholic on the street corner where you wonder, oh, what happened to that guy? Oh, don't worry about him. He's just a neighborhood bum. And he becomes that neighborhood bum who is a zombie. And that's just another warning of people passing by of look at what this life that you see is glamorous, look what it actually leads to. Remember, it talked about the ghost being unable to, he can't get rid of. It's always haunting him. Remember how this life is not for everyone. So that's what I truly feel could happen if there is no pow pow.
Can I ask a question? First and foremost, excellent breakdown. Everything you said, 100% agree with. Now, a question for you both, as well as people listening to the show. Which do you think is a worse fate for Lou? That he becomes that alcoholic on the street or that he kills himself?
Alcoholic, because if you kill yourself, it's done and over. We don't know what's going to pop up in the afterlife. It's not like, well, let's go and follow him into wherever he goes, heaven or hell. We can't do that. Him even being a ghost in terms of, you know how we have past dead people and they're like in the room, hey, let's talk, let's have a conversation. I don't really see that happening in terms of like Raquel starts seeing ghosts. Because Raquel made a statement. She kind of knows how to compartmentalize. She knows what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And even with Kanan's situation, he's so up his butthole with what he's doing and trying to be a man. I don't think is going to even listen to the ghost of Lulu. But having him, Lulu, be that alcoholic in the street and the alley and the zombie, I think would be far more powerful because that is a symbol that, we just can't reach him anymore. We can't save him. And even if you look at Marvin, say for example, if that does happen and you see, the zombie in him, and and that him, Marvin getting arrested and he's in the cop car going off to jail because they got all the evidence and everything else. And then they see slow, but that slow drive. Oh, there goes Lulu right there. He sees out the car. And that's their fate. So I'm starting to think that I don't want him to go pound pound no more. I think I want him to live and to be that alcoholic zombie. Ooh, yay me.
Yeah, that's a really good question that you asked, Rich. It's very deep, and so I mean, when it comes to death, death definitely is very final, and it hurts as well. If you have loved ones. In this show, Lulu doesn't have children that we know of, so yeah, like I guess you could make an argument that maybe he's better off dead because I mean he won't be, obviously he's got family, he's got a nephew, he's got a niece, he's got brothers, sisters, mother, so they might feel some pain, surrounding his death, but he doesn't have that much to live for outside of the work he was doing at the bar and everything like that. So you could make that argument that maybe he is better off dead than being drunk forever. But I like what Dana said, like him being a symbol of how hard you can fall, of what happens when you go down this path. I do think that if he did just end up being that drunk guy who who's begging for money to buy alcohol, every day, at 7 a.m. in the morning and stuff like that. Like, I think it's definitely a powerful message to leave. But yeah, I don't know. That's a hard question. It's a hard question because when it comes to death, I felt that pain so much of losing someone. So I don't like that. I don't like death, but I do like what Dana was saying. So I think my answer is the same as Dana. I think it's better if he's a symbol. But Dana, you really want to say something, so go ahead.
I really, really want to say something because I think the answer is in the song. Can I just say a paragraph of the song? Because I think that it actually answers the question. So it says this. It feels like I signed a contract with the devil. Different song that I'm singing. No more dope that I'm slinging. I reach for the hip every time my page are ringing. I'm a zombie at night. That's how I'm living life. It went wrong. Tried to do the right thing like I'm Spike. But I fight hella times. Yeah, the streets got the best of me. So every night, shit, my gun is staying next to me. He doesn't pull the trigger. So what do we see? His gun is always, we saw him when he pulled out the gun that was next to him. The gun was on his hip. The gun was in the car with him. And it says, every night, my gun is staying next to me. He's unable for some reason to pull that trigger. So I think that may actually be his life. And then we saw that the gun went off and he was shooting it in the air and he had the opportunity to kill himself. That's when I thought he was going to probably accidentally shoot himself in the face and die that way, but he didn't. So I think every time he gets a circumstance where he wants to die, he tries to pull that trigger, it goes wrong. So this is just the gun stays next to him.
Mm. Yeah, like Rich said, that's a great job with the breakdown. By the way, breaking down the lyrics and everything. That was a very good thing. We might have to clip that actually. But yeah, that was a very good breakdown, and that's very reassuring that perhaps he isn't going to end up pulling the trigger, but Breeze will. That's all, that's all I got to say. So moving on, moving on. I'm sorry, it had to be done. But okay, so what time is it? Okay, final question. This is a quick one. What's your thoughts on Burke's father? Because in this episode, we see he goes to visit Nicole's father, and as we know, it came up in the past that Burke was kind of meddling in that case and stuff, and she was kind of, I think, if I recall, she might have been punished for it or something, or scolded for it by the captain. But yeah, so he goes to talk to her about that, and he kind of Nicole's father suggests that another officer came by to reinforce that Burke was involved, and he mentions himself that he was a bit skeptical about that, about Burke being the being involved in it, I guess. But yeah, he mentions that another detective came by to kind of push the issue and blame it on Burke. And then Burke's father puts two and two together, and he's like, okay, it was Howard. So where do you think they're going with that? What is his next move going to be? Is he going to go straight to the captain, and complain about Howard? Is he going to start investigating Howard and looking into him and trying to figure out his lies? Is he going to team up with Foyle? What do you think is going to come off of the back of that conversation? So go ahead, Dana. You seem like you really want to say something.
This is the downfall of Howard. And yay, because I'm kind of tired of Howard at this point. Okay, so I feel that he is a cop. What do cops do? You can't just come barging in there and start arresting people and accusing people of things. You got to investigate. So this, I think, he's going to start launching his own internal investigation against Howard. We already know that the feds know that something is popping off in Howard is a little weird and he's acting dumb right now. Ooh, tell me what you know. And they're like, oh, we're going to tell you what we want you to know because we know what you know. And we know that you were just a lying ho-ho. So it's going to work out. It's going to be amazing. We're going to see his downfall. But I do think this is going to be the start of that investigation from his father's end. And then, culminating what's going on with the feds, I do feel that this is going to be, one of those things where we're starting to meet Howard. And this actually bleeds into Raquel's situationship because we all know unless some Hail Mary miracle happens, Marvin is going to jail. Lulu, either he's not going to be there physically in this world or, mentally, he's not going to be able to help. Howard is now gone. Lulu is truly on her own. And the one thing what we've seen so far with all of these series, all of these seasons, she's never truly been alone having to do with this game. She's always been with someone. This is how maybe through something we end up get the Raquel and Kanan come back to work with each other. Again, she cannot leave this game. I do not think they're going to. I hope they don't kill her off. Period. Now again, we don't know from the adult. So if you said I went to go see my mom, so we don't know what form that was in. But I do think that without someone on the inside, this is going to really start to harm Raquel. Howard is going to meet his end because he's getting a little bit too. See, the thing is, remember I told you I don't trust happiness? Howard is getting a little too happy in terms of I'm going to be transferred. I'm leaving. I'm going to start working with them. That's not going to happen at all. Remember that whole little background check? Oh, it should be fine. We all knew that felt like double talk to us. So this is going to be, an investigation. Whether or not we only have 2 more episodes, I believe. So I don't think it's going to be this season. But next season, we're going to start dealing with some consequences of your own actions situation. So I think it's going to start bleeding into right now with these last 3 episodes. We're going to start bleeding into season 4, 5, 4, 4. So that's what I think.
Yeah, yeah, interesting theory. It makes me think about the outcome of Howard's outcome a bit, but I'll expand on that. But Richard, what do you think? First of all, what do you think about Howard and Burke's father? Like, what's Burke's father's next move going to be? Is he going to launch like a private investigation against him or something?
Yes, I can see him launching a private investigation. I don't think that Foyle will be involved anymore. She made it very clear when she had that conversation with the father in the park. She doesn't want anything to do with Howard because Howard already scared her earlier this season when he approached her. So I don't think she's going to be involved, but obviously, the father feels he still is trying to understand what happened to his daughter, Shannon. So I kind of feel like, yes, he is going to basically be coming after Howard. Howard is obviously it's going to look suspicious to him if he sees that Howard is trying to get another position now and get away from the department that he was in. That is going to all be very suspicious. So I do want to see how he's going to play this. My guess is that he's going to do some digging into Howard's history. He's going to find a lot of the information that Burke found out, and that will give him enough reason to think that Howard did something. But again, you have to be able to prove that Howard killed Shannon Burke. And that is the one thing I don't know how they're going to figure that out. But obviously, he could definitely be suspicious of Howard. He could take some actions. Maybe he can give this information to the task force, and then it becomes an issue with Howard. But to answer the question, I think it's going to be a very exciting next 2 episodes. I honestly think that the situation with Howard, that could get resolved by the finale as well. If it goes into season 4, that'll be interesting. But I have a feeling something's probably going to happen to Howard by the end of the season. I just have a feeling. I just don't know. But we have to wait and see. But go ahead, Dana. You about to say something.
No, I was going back to the car situation when he killed her.
Mhm.
He found the recorder. He took the recorder. Did he delete the record? He deleted the recording.
They never showed that. They never showed that.
They never showed that. So
Yeah.
here we have a questionable. We don't know whether or not the recording was deleted, but we do know that it's in his possession. All we technically really need is a motive and a warrant, really, for that to happen. Also, I know DNA did not exist back in the 90s yet, but I feel that the way that it happened was so sloppy that hopefully we have a re-examination of her autopsy, and maybe he slipped up somehow and there's some evidence where it showed that this doesn't really look like a self-inflicted gunshot wound because the angle at the right bin of something and then the blood splatter didn't match up. So I'm getting everything crossed that maybe that can be the case. And I know that that area, at least I strongly believe, there wasn't any kind of surveillance. That's why there was like this isolated area. But I'm just hoping that he screwed up in some way in terms of the shooting, maybe clothing, something that would prove that it was not a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I don't know if that's because again we're dealing with the 90s. It's a very antiquated system, but the fact that that recorder we don't know where it's at, we don't know if it was deleted, could prove some kind of evidence. They made it a fact to show this is the recorder. It made you show Howard took it. It wasn't in the car. Maybe, I don't know. She had a backup recorder. Some people like extra plan. So maybe it was hidden in the car seat. My understanding that car was not destroyed because that's how they found out she committed suicide. So maybe everything is intact and we discover, hey, there's another recorder. But I'm just hoping. I'm praying.
That all sounds good to me. And I had a theory as you were talking. I think it's very simple as he finds out that Howard is Kanan's father. That's it. Because that's the only reason why Howard got rid of Burk, because she found out the truth. And of course, we know back in season 1, when Howard had that went into the doctors and got the blood tests and stuff like that. This is how he discovered, oh I am Kanan's father. So if he finds out that information, that's it. Now he is a liability. You got to get rid of him. And that's why I said he brings that information to the feds because they're already looking at Raquel. They already are looking at Marvin. It's a whole mess of a situation. So if he finds out that information by digging, it's a wrap for Howard.
That is a great point. Yeah, I think that could be the piece of information that comes out, you know. And as for Howard's outcome, like, you know, what will happen? Now, it really seems like to me, Marvin is definitely going to get busted the end of the season. And I think it's a bit too clean if Howard also gets busted. So I think because he is very stubborn, he's a very stubborn guy. I feel like the moment he gets a hint that, you know, they're on onto his scent, that they suspect him of, you know, covering up these murders and, like, you know, possibly killing Burke and stuff. I think the moment he finds out that they're onto him, he might actually just leave. Like, he might go on the run. I think he could become maybe a dark horse kind of character that shows up every now and then to assist Kanan or something like that. And but here's the thing: if his leukemia comes back, that's going to be a problem if he is on the run. So, you know, go ahead, Rich.
Well, here's the question. So Gary, you saying you don't want to see Howard go out guns blazing, you know, in a shootout with the FBI? You don't want to see that happen?
I do want to see that, and that could still happen too. that could still happen, because if he goes on a run, it's almost like an admission of guilt, like he's hiding something. So, like, if he happens to show up again and they see him, that's going to lead to, a chase of some sorts, and that could lead to a shootout. So that could still happen, I think, if he goes on a run. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I do want to see that because it relates to how Kanan died. So I would love if that was the same
that's
way.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Thinking. Yep. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, go.
Oh, I was just agreeing with Gary because I was going to say, oh, it's poetic, death by cop, 2 times. So, and maybe he was thinking of his father at that moment, and that's why he was like, and I like it.
The only difference will be that Kanan, he took out all the cops before he died. Howard will not be able to take all those cops out. So that's the only difference. He will get shot and killed before he gets a chance to take out all of them. But that lead FBI guy, that guy who was in everybody's business, he probably needs to get taken out. So I would look forward to seeing what happens with that particular character. I don't know about the other people, but that lead guy, yeah, he probably needs to get taken out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But yeah, so let's get to final thoughts because yeah, we're running out of time here. I mean, my final thoughts, another great episode. This season they haven't missed yet, in my opinion. Like every episode has been very interesting. One of the best shows I've watched in a while because it seems like there's no filler. Like every scene means something to the story. So I feel like they're doing a great job. And yeah, this episode didn't disappoint. I very much enjoyed seeing Raquel, in boss mode doing her thing. And it just did. This episode really intensified the conflict between Raquel and Ronnie. So now these two characters have to see each other. And that's going to be interesting. And we have 2 episodes left. So it's going to be an explosion, I think. Like, once we see these 2 characters cross paths. But yeah, those are my final thoughts. So how about you, Richard? You got any final thoughts?
I agree. This was a fantastic episode of Raising Kanan. There are only 2 episodes left, so I'm very curious to see what happens in these next 2 episodes. And they are currently filming season 4. So yeah, just looking forward to seeing what's happening. But awesome show. And hey, let's see where things go from here.
Indeed. And Dana, how about you?
No, I really liked this episode. Again, it was really good to see Jukebox just having a friend, Aisha, who doesn't care about her sexuality and kind of just teased her, oh, you like white girls. And that was just fun banter that they had with each other. She just genuinely doesn't care. So I really did like that. I like the fact that they also kind of, we're getting like revenge probably comes next episode where we're going to see, Pops and Snaps really kind of step their game up because, they said, oh, it's about revenge now, it's about us and it's about protecting us because now she's threatening their business. So I wonder if there's going to be any retaliation that we see in the next episode. We only got 2 more episodes. So it's going to be really interesting and really fun to watch that go down. And, continue to learn about how Kanan is going to handle certain situations and what's going on with the heroin business. We all know he's cut out for it, but to see him kind of grow, learn those skills along the way should be really exciting. And I look forward to that. And I hope Pernessa survives, even though she could die. I don't really care at this point. And I look forward to seeing, Ronnie act all weird and Ronnie is and what's going to happen in the next episode with him and Kanan. So that should be fairly interesting. And I like what they're doing with the show so far. So yay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so great thoughts all around. Can't wait to see what people in the comments think. Tracy Lee and Rainy J. They're always leaving great comments. So can't wait to see what they have this week. But yeah, that is going to be it for this episode. We have 2 more left. And yeah, we have some other ideas as well that we're cooking up in the background. So definitely subscribe to the channel to get notified and everything. Hit the bell to get notified, when a video does drop. And check out the Koalition Entertainment also and the Koalition Gaming, the sibling channels, Lulu and Marvin. That's those channels. So go check out those. And we'll see you next week. Peace out.